So welcome everyone. My name is Edwina Cramp. I'm the ESOS Product Manager here at IYes, and today I'm with Phil Cully, who's our Technical Support Manager for ESOS Auditor. We thought, given that it's the 5th of August and it's 4 months out from compliance date, we'd take a little bit of a look at using software solutions versus using spreadsheets for complying with ESOS. So with any further ado, I will get started. So just a bit of brief background on IYes. Our background's in building simulation. We were founded and headquartered in Glasgow over 20 years ago, and we've got a global presence. And our solutions look at everything from new buildings through to buildings in operation, and we're starting to move more into what you can do at the community level as well. So that's why when ESOS came along, it seemed to fit in with the rest of our solutions and the rest of our business. So just taking a little bit of a look at ESOS now and where we are. I think probably most of you have already heard the numbers. I think the latest numbers I heard were 57 companies have currently complied. There seems to be some question marks over how far along the rest of the companies are, and there's some concern over the amount of time left and being able to get everyone processed and all the compliance made by the 5th of December audit. So hopefully you're somewhere along the process, or at least sort of starting with that. With regards to IYes, ESOS Auditor we developed in conjunction with the Energy Managers Association, and it was also reviewed by the technical author for the PAS standard. And as I mentioned before, we developed it purely because it fitted in alongside all of our other software solutions on the simulation aspect of things. In June, we had received confirmation from the Environment Agency that they would accept ESOS Auditor as part of evidence pack proof of compliance if you're chosen to be audited by your regulator. So this is one of the requirements of ESOS, is that you need to store an evidence pack for it can be 8 to 12 years. It's the compliance period plus the 2 following compliance periods from that. So moving on to the topic for today, we wanted to have a little bit of a look at some of the advantages of using software such as ESOS Auditor over spreadsheets. I think where we feel strongly is that for a low cost of the technology up front, it will save you time and resource in the long run, primarily because if you're using spreadsheets, it can be a challenge to manage multiple users on those spreadsheets and make sure that you don't get any duplicate versions and that no work's overwritten and just little logistical things like that. And obviously with cloud-based software you can split responsibility across a number of people and sort of lighten the individual workloads and the resource drain that you might be thinking ESOS will cause you. One of the main advantages as we see it is that you know, we've done a lot of the hard work for you. We've done our due diligence. We've worked, as I mentioned, with the EMA and with Kit Young, who is the technical author for that new PAS standard, in developing the software and making sure that you know, all you really need to do is go through and check that you've filled in the right sections, that you've got a complete set of data, that you've uploaded the associated evidence, and you know, indicated what parts of the of your total energy use have been covered by which energy audits, and then obviously going on into detailing your opportunities that have been identified and ranking them. And then at the end of it, we also create a report which you can print off for director sign-off. So I think in the long run this will reduce the risk of errors and help the process with regards to liaising with your lead assessor. And again, sort of coming back to that team management side of things, if you've got a cloud-based system and you can have multiple users and you can assign different areas of responsibility, you can start to see what progress is being made. And within ESOS Auditor, we have progress bars just showing what progress has been made, where you've got data gaps, what needs to be gathered and where. We also have the ability to allow your data to be checked and shown as checked by your lead assessor, so that you can see, if they've got any issues with it, they can put little notes back to you and say, okay, right, I need you to go away and do this. So I think from that side of things, it does make the process much more smart and much less time intensive. The last point that I wanted to make was that with regards to the evidence pack, because you can upload and link evidence documents to the data so that you're not trying to store them in two different places, it means that you're building and storing your evidence pack online in a way that can be accessed by anyone. And this is going back to the point I mentioned about the Environment Agency. So they've said that if you are called for audit, all you'd need to do is contact us, and we would give them a login to your account online, and they would be able to go through and see that you've ticked off the main points that you need for your evidence pack. And also, if you have all of this data organised in one place, it enables you to go beyond compliance a bit more, make the most of that data, and start to use that perhaps with other companies in identifying the impact that you will have when you've actually implemented some of the savings. And here's just a little bit to show you the kind of stuff that you are meant to be storing in your evidence pack. So it is your record of everything you've done to comply with ESOS. Like I mentioned before, you need to show it. If you're audited, it must be kept for up to 12 years. And it includes this kind of information on your total energy consumption calculations, the areas you've identified as your 90% plus of significant consumption. It should have all the evidence documents associated with all the proof, as well as details of the energy audits and routes to compliance that you've used, and the supporting methodology and evidence around that. And also, again, details of the energy saving opportunities that you've identified. There are some other things that you do need in your evidence pack, but the bulk of what I've just covered is the bulk of it, and that's what's covered within ESOS Auditor. At this point, I'm going to hand you over to Phil, who's going to give you a little demo of some of the features that I've just covered.
Thank you. So what we'll do now is log into the site and have a look at it live. We're focusing today on some of the advantages of using the ESOS Auditor software that we've created, and we want to really highlight these extra features that you get, and compared to some of the manual methods that you may have. We've looked at some of the methodologies that are out there when we're developing this system, and we feel that we've added some extra benefits. I think the question's popped up. I'll just open that quickly. Okay, it's an apology. The raised hand is the wrong key being pressed. That's fine. So yeah, as we developed this, we did look at some of the other methods out there, and it's the kind of thing that can be done manually, but we feel it'll take longer. There's much greater chance of missing something or making a mistake. And if you had to revisit the project, it may be something that you get your group together and do a lot of work on up front, but you might have to come back to this in 4 or 5 months and pick it up and remember where you were, whereas we think this tool that we have keeps everything structured and it's easy to come back in later on. So I'll log in just now and show just a sample account that I have. So one of the first steps when we create any any project or when you undertake an ESOS assessment, the first thing you should really be thinking about is the structure of a company, and especially for a larger organisation. ESOS applies to really large organisations, and there could be quite a lot of subdivisions and breakdown and different people who are going to feed into the ESOS data. So the first thing that we're really thinking about when we set this up would be what structure do we want to manage the project by? How do we want to set this up, and who can do what? So for this example, we've created a case where it's a UK company and we've got different offices. So we've got an England division and then a Scotland division. We've got London, we've got Edinburgh, we've got Glasgow. It's fairly simple. This is completely flexible. You can add as many substructures as you want, and it's all about organising the project and making it easy for the people that need to work with it. So we'll show that in this case. So this is what we have for this one. What we can do is we can assign different people onto the project. ESOS Auditor allows you to purchase projects for multiple users, and you can decide which roles these people will take. So we have 4 levels that we've created. The data checker, I'll start at start, sorry. The account administrator is responsible for adding people onto the project. So the screen that we see now would be done by your admin once they've decided how you want to run the project. We then have the data manager. So these people are responsible for inputting the data to the project. So defining what buildings we have, what transports we have, what meters we have, the energy consumptions, and uploading the bills and the evidence for that. We then have the checker. We think that's your ESOS assessor. This is someone who will go through the uploaded data and sign off on it and say, yep, that's okay, or no, there's still areas to do. And finally, we have the reporter, the person who would generate the final compliance report, enter the energy saving measures, perform the audit itself. So we can pick and choose between these. So in this case, I've added on an extra person here, simply under the Scotland banner. And this is where we see the work being split out. It doesn't necessarily all have to be done by one person. You can break it down depending on any hierarchy or any structure that the organisation may have. So if we come out of here, the main account that we have here may be the company director, for example, or someone who's got an overview of the whole process. And you'll see that we've got access to all of the different areas here. This person can come in, they can check what energy data has already been entered. We can go to the final reports, we can generate the report if we want to see how the whole thing looks. So we think, although you won't necessarily be entering the data if you're with this role, it is possible to see everything. It's transparency really, and for the client in this case, the company owner, they should be allowed to go in and see the whole thing. So if I come out now, I'll log into the Scottish account that we have for this one. They all have my name in it, so don't be confused by that. So this account, you'll see straight away, we've got a few less options. Just bring this down. A few less options than the overall head had, but we can enter the data for all the Scotland branches, and we can also view the reports to view the progress for Glasgow and Edinburgh. So if we look at the energy inputs initially, and I've added some on here already. So I've added a few buildings. So we've got Glasgow South, Glasgow North, and the filters that we have really allow this to be flexible. So you see that this person only sees the Scottish options, so it's actually hidden what else is there. So if we choose Glasgow at this point, and we see just the Glasgow information, so we've got the 2 offices here, and you can do that for every option in the software and every level that we have on this tool. You can choose these filters. So we've seen this one. I've added on some meters already, and I've actually entered the energy data for these. So we've got 2 halves of the year in this case, and the other one I think is broken down into quarters. Nope, it's got the full thing. So if we come back up to this level, you'll see the progress bars that Edwina mentioned before, and this keeps us right as we're entering the data. So these are provided for the people who are tasked with collecting the data and making sure it gets onto the ESOS tool, onto the project. So in this case, we've completed 90%. We've actually covered most of our reference year. The reference year for this project has been defined as being from July to July, so 2014 through to 2015. If I switch that filter on, we can see the date ranges. So again, the filters will let us see if we only have, we want to check maybe we've finished the 2014 portion of this, we can start from there till the end of the year. And we can see that we've completed all 3/4 of that one. Some of it's been checked already as well, some of it hasn't. Yeah, so the check data has been signed off up to 75% of those fields, but we've actually entered the full thing. So for the data checking team, they've still got some work to do in this case, but the people who are putting the data in and collecting it for Glasgow, they can say at this point the job's done, unless anything is rejected, of course, by the auditor. And these fields are shown for the supplies, the energy data, and also for the transports. So I don't think we've got transport for Glasgow in this account. If we check the Edinburgh account, it's been entered for the full period that we're checking here. And if I switch that back on for the full year now, and we can see that we've actually put the transports in for the full year, but these haven't been checked. So that's the data entry side. The other thing I wanted to mention while we're on data entry, it's a bit of an elephant in the room when we're talking about an alternative to spreadsheets, but we do actually have a batch upload option, and that will take a CSV file, which normally we would edit in spreadsheets. By no means do we think spreadsheets are a bad idea. They have their place, and they can speed up a lot of manual repetitive tasks such as entering the data. But I think as far as organising your project, revisiting it and having some sort of structure on the whole energy input checked, reported, something like the ESOS Auditor tool we have online here will be far more useful than a complicated spreadsheet. So yeah, I did want to mention that we do have a CSV upload, and you would normally fill in that data in a spreadsheet. We're utilising spreadsheets where they're of greatest benefit. If I come back now to our data checking, so this is the second level after it's been input, and we want to check on progress, tripping over the words. And again, I'm logged in at the Scotland account at this point, so I can only see these sub-offices or sub-parts of the company. And if I look in for Glasgow here, we again get a nice quick progress bar to say how much has been done, how much is still to do. And actually on the screen before, the one here indicates that there's still something to be checked. So our data checker still has something to sign off on. And we can see it's in this one. There's one here that hasn't been checked yet. So if we come in, we would normally have the evidence attached, so the checker can come in at this level. They don't necessarily need to be involved with the data input people. We can download whichever evidence has been associated, and if it's correct, we stick on whether it passes. If there's a problem, we can press fail, we can send that back, maybe the evidence wasn't attached, as in this case, pending if it's still to be done, and exclude if we don't want it to appear on the report. So we're thinking about the final report at this point as well. Stick past, we can add a comment in if we want to say any further notes for maybe for the client to check, and we can save that. And we see it's now been passed up to all the data that's been entered. Again, the filters can be useful here if we want to just look at a specific date range. If we know maybe some of the 2015 data hasn't been recorded yet, or we don't, we're not expecting it yet, we can set the date range that we want to check. So that's available at all levels. Similarly for our transports, we can see there's one here that needs to be checked. There's no progress bar on the transport, but it will show you which entries need to be checked at that point. And if we come back out, the final area is the reports. So on the reporting screen, we're mostly interested in, has everything been signed off? Enter your energy saving measures, and then we want to check the final ESOS report. So again, the progress summary is much like what we saw before. We get progress bars to say how we're doing overall. Now at this point, I'm actually going to come back out. I'm just going to show quickly the reports that we can get can be filtered out by offices again, and with these accounts that we have, we're seeing a subset of the offices. But if I come out and log back in as the client at this point, or what we would see maybe as the ESOS assessor, who would have an overall view of the tool. So if we're coming back into this account now, so this again may be the client, it may be the company director or the ESOS manager. They've got more of an interest, so got nothing shown for the whole UK at this point. We can check England, nothing done there. We can check the Scotland team who have done some work. Oh, my date's wrong. Here we go. Okay. So you can see the granularity there. You can break down into the different parts of the project, see who's done what and who's still got work to do. And we think that will be a real time saver. Trying to find that on a complicated set of files and spreadsheet hierarchy would be very difficult. Here it's a few clicks to cycle through the different parts of the company. And we can see how much progress has been done. In this case, because the assessor's already signed off, we can actually see a lot more detail. But normally we would maybe have a portion entered, a portion that's been passed already or not. The energy saving measures are entered here. They'd be entered for each building, but then overall for the company we'd have a list of these. And finally we've got our reports. So for our whole company, and this is where we take the top level again, check the date range. You want it for the whole reference year. See, that's a little bit wrong. And what we'll get from this is a report summing up the whole energy consumptions for as much as has been selected through the filter. So in this case it's the full reference year and it's for the top level downwards. So it's going to include everything from our London, Glasgow, Edinburgh, all buildings, all energy consumptions, all transports. It's going to list all of the energy saving measures that have been identified, costs, paybacks, and then we'd have sign off. This is what you will submit at the end. But in addition to this, you can also generate these reports for each sub-level, which we think is really useful. So I can generate this for Edinburgh. In this case, I've not added a lot of data to the project yet, so you see it's a little bit lower in terms of the costs. If we look at Glasgow, it's got a bit more data on it. So we see this is more complete. There's no warnings at this point. There's nothing saying that you haven't added the data or it hasn't been checked, because actually we've done most of this project now. And we've identified 96% of the energy, so we meet our minimum 90%, and we've got the energy saving measure associated. So these reports, although they're tailored and they've been approved for your final ESOS compliance, we think they have value for subdivisions of companies or sub-levels, especially where you might have regional managers that are interested in their own areas, or parts of the company if it's split maybe between different operations. We think these reports can be really useful for that as well. So those are a few of the additional benefits we think that you get from using the ESOS Auditor tool, especially compared to a more traditional or manual spreadsheet method. So I'll pop you back over now, Ted. We enough to wrap up?
Thanks for that, Phil. Let me just get the PowerPoint back up. I think I'm just going to do a quick summary just to round things up, and then we'll take any questions. So basically, as we've said, ESOS Auditor is a tool to sort of connect and manage your ESOS team. It's cloud-based. You can access it from any device. You can use multiple users, assign different levels of access, connect from any different location. There's a secure system, and you can also import data in bulk. We feel that it allows you to comply with ESOS quite quickly and easily, collect all that data, store it, submit and liaise with your lead assessor on checking the data and the audits, and also the energy efficiency recommendations. It does have some neat little features, like it will automatically calculate the ROI on some of the recommendations. And like Phil said, it's shown you in quite a bit of detail. You can tailor the reports by the company or the energy area. It's just a quick slide here on costs. It really is quite flexible by the number of users that you require. It's a one company license, though if you're a lead assessor we do offer deals with multiple company licenses, and you can have those all under one login, and it's unlimited buildings. There's also an data storage option if after this first year you want to keep just your data stored on the site. There's a small cost of £120 a year to do that, or there will be the ability to download the data off the site. So I'm going to open the floor up for questions now. I can see there's already some there. Just trying to read that organisation. Is there a facility to upload disaggregation letters for complex organisations to clearly define the organisational structure within ESOS scope? And that's from David Spiretti. Oh, I'm sorry, I pronounced your name completely wrong.
We don't have. Yeah, I can see what you would want to maybe associate something to the project rather than an individual item. There's nothing built into the system to add that comment. It would probably just be part of the evidence pack. Maybe you would submit that in addition to the report, because the report at the end, we do print that off to sign, to be signed off before it's then sent off for compliance. So yeah, I think the disaggregation and the explanation of which parts of a company have been assessed would come from there. We do have the ability to add subdivisions and buildings that don't get assessed at all within the project if you wanted to do it, even though it wasn't part of the compliance, and then they can be marked as exclude or not have the data added. That is a possibility as well, and you could add that into the comments section at that point. But no, we don't have an option at the moment to add notes to a project, but it's possibly something we could add. I'll think about that one and maybe talk to the development team on it. Thanks, David.
Are there any other questions from anybody? I think there's a little question section that you can just type in your question, or there's a chat box. Okay, I think that's us in that case. Just a reminder, if you want to download any of the handouts, they're available from the right-hand side. We'll also be sharing a recording of this session probably by tomorrow, hopefully, if everything goes to plan. Thanks very much for your time, everyone. If you want to talk to anyone in the sales team, you can just email sales@iesv.com or give us a call on the Glasgow number there, 0141 945 850. Oop. So one more question just came in from Barry. How does the software work for lead assessors? So Barry, I'm assuming you're working maybe on a couple of projects. It works in exactly the same way for lead assessors, and you've got a single login, but when you don't go straight to the company page, it will give you a page where you can choose which company you're working on from that side of things, and you can go in to that company and you can go up and down from the different company levels. So there's basically another level on top where you can go between the companies. And then apart from that, it works in exactly the same way. You can, okay, I can see you've just come back. What's the cost for someone like you? It depends on how many companies you would want to cover. Do you want to drop me an email or a note with I think I've got your phone number, Barry. I'll give you a call after the session and we can go through specific costs. Perfect. Thanks for that, Barry. Any other questions from anybody? Okay, I think that's a no. Thanks very much for your time, everyone. I will see you probably next month on the next webinar. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.